Hello, and welcome to my lightning talk. From chapter 10 in the Multicultural Health textbook, I was most interested in learning about how Asian Americans lived in the United States. I found that some Asian Americans came to the U.S. voluntarily in hopes of paving a better, more prosperous life for themselves and their families, while other Asians came seeking refuge from wars and conflicts happening in their motherland. What stuck out to me about this was how most of the conflicts mentioned were between other Asian countries. It was Asian countries fighting against each other, such as Laos and Cambodia against Vietnam, Vietnam against China, Japan against China, and China against India. Likely, this is part of the reason why the Asian people who came to the U.S. are not homogenous and do not tend to mix, instead preferring to keep to their respective ethnic enclaves. Asian people have a collectivist worldview, as well as a humanistic view that holds themselves accountable for their actions. I also learned that the Asian women have the highest life expectancy out of all the other women of other ethnic groups in the U.S. Some prevalent diseases within the Asian population tend to be chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, hepatitis B, HIV/AIDS, smoking, tuberculosis, and liver disease. Aside from this, I also learned of some statistics pertaining to the Asian Americans in the U.S. Some of these include Asian Americans are less likely to live in poverty, they are more likely to be college graduates or hold graduate degrees, and they are more likely to be employed in business, science, and art occupations. Additionally, these Asians also tend to lead the nation in median family income. All of this information kind of brought me to the question, how do these statistics affect Asian people in America on a social level? I think that these type of statistics help perpetuate the model minority myth, which is when a particular minority group is seen as more collectively successful in a social or economic sense than the rest of the population. I think this stereotype is harmful as it creates a very clear divide between Asians and other people of color. After doing some research, I came across a journal article from learningforjustice.gov by Sarah Sundling Blackburn called "What is the Model Minority Myth?" that I think really puts things into perspective. To quote the article, positioning Asian Americans as beneficiaries of the bounty of the American dream, the myth of the model minority ignores the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 and Japanese internment in the 1940s. It suggests that the U.S. has always been a welcoming place for people of Asian descent, in spite of the mass lynchings of Asian Americans in the 19th century and the murder of Vincent Shin in 1982. The myth persists in spite of the fact that 1 in 7 Asian immigrants in America tend to be undocumented and is undocumented and facing potential deportation, a fact that is repeatedly overlooked in the national conversation about immigration. End quote. I think the stereotype of the model minority heavily downplays any discrimination and struggles Asian people in the U.S. face. I chose this question because, one, it's important to me on a personal level being an Asian person, but also I think it's an important discussion to have in light of the recent mass waves of Asian hate crimes following COVID. Thank you for listening to my lightning talk.